Okay, so get your TCI. We're going to check our answers from section 2 on. We're going to only do one section today and then have a video about Bunker Hill with the Liberty kids that you could try to wrap stuff up. So I have one more grade. Remember, tonight's the deadline. I did update most of the grades last night. So double check in focus. And so let me share my screen with you. If you want to check your answers and have your TCI up, that's great. So in section 1 was called The Colonists Organize an Army. Let me share my window. And the picture is a depiction of the British marching up Breed's Hill, and the video is going to talk about that, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, and then we can discuss at the end of that. But let's go over. You should have completed this activity, and the first answer is John Adams proposed George Washington to be Commander-in-Chief. He believed that Washington's talents and his success in the French Indian War and his character, more than anything else, would unite the colonies better than anybody else that they had suited. And it proved that John Adams was a home run as far as choices go. The events of the Battle of Bunker Hill, and we're going to bring this out in the video today. If you want to type in your answers, you can bring yours up now. But militiamen built a fort on the top of Breed's Hill that overlooked Boston on the night of June 16th. In your flow chart, when General Howe from Boston realized the Patriots were building fortifications, he ordered an attack, and with 2,000 men, they marched up the base of the hill. The Patriot Commander-in-Chief ordered the Americans to wait until the British were really close, and that's where the saying "Americans see the rise" because they had limited, gunpowder. They fired. That really discombobulated the British, and they weren't expecting that. And so the first time was unsuccessful. So they all ran down to the hill. General Howe was a little upset with his soldiers, and he sent some more reinforcements. And they reorganized. They went up the hill again. Kind of the same thing, and then it took 3 tries. But basically the third try is that the British overran because they had superior numbers, and the Patriots were running out of ammunition, so they had no choice but to retreat. And then you were supposed to tell what happened on these 2 events. And Mr. Knox, if you remember, he put the cannons on sleds, and that's what your drawing could show. And then the Continental Army was able to increase supplies, and they brought them back to Boston. The sketch should show troops maybe leaving, the ships leaving Boston Harbor, but they're up to you. And your caption or your headline would be, "The Continental Army was able to regain Boston with very little bloodshed," as the British fled to General Howe, and about 1,100 loyalists fled to Canada. The next section dealt with the Second Continental Congress as well. And you've got to remember that that was meeting in Philadelphia, and what it meant to have the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Paine wrote his famous pamphlet called Common Sense. The colonists, there were loyalists at the Second Continental, and they wanted to have the olive branch sent to the King George to make peace. And, there was a little or no fighting for almost a year after the battles of Lexington and Concord, and the British leaving Boston. Many colonists felt loyal to the king. And then your Venn diagram between the olive branch petition, which was a peace offering to King, and Common Sense, should kind of look like this. That was written to the king. They asked for the quarrels and to end peacefully. What did King George do? He rejected, called the colonists traitors. That made them a little unhappy. So they offered the solution between Great Britain as what they had in common. And then Thomas Paine's common sense pamphlet, which went to 250,000, claimed that Britain had hurt the colonists and that he needed to, it was used to persuade the colonists to ask for independence. So then the Second Continental Congress organizes a committee, and that committee includes Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and a few others, and they give it to Thomas Jefferson to write. And Jefferson's main idea and thinking was that all men are created equal, and that it was okay to dissolve the government if it didn't serve. Oh, we're doing it in Spanish today. And that it was okay to dissolve the government if the government didn't serve the people. And the purpose, Jefferson really believed, was the government's job to serve the people. And I think he was right on with that. So I gave you the free answer yesterday. Thomas Jefferson was the one that drafted the Declaration of Independence. And the colonies were separated from Great Britain. Jefferson also believed they needed to notify England why and the world why. So you were supposed to pick a couple different events in the chart, and let's see what we have here. So the ideas in the Declaration of Independence was all people are born equal. And why is that important? It's important because it stated that the treatment should be the same. The world would be a more just place. And then number two, the Declaration's idea, or Jefferson's idea, that government's power to rule comes from the people. Therefore, why was it important that Jefferson believed that people shouldn't have to feel powerless and the government does not have the power over them, and the government is supposed to serve the people? And that if the government was not serving the people, the third idea was that the people can create a new government to protect their safety and happiness. And we know that in his words, if you go back to the quote, that Thomas Jefferson believed in the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So people don't have to wait around for someone to make their own government better, that they can create a new government that'll keep them safe and happy. And that's what the colonists are where they were at today. So then, today, that brings us to section 4, the final break. And let's highlight the main idea. So on July 1st, the Second Continental Congress still met. This is a picture of Independence Hall. You can still go visit Independence Hall today. By noon, it was a real hot day. The tempers were flaring between the Loyalists and the Patriots, and you needed to figure out who was going to vote, how was going to vote, and you needed to remember there was 13 colonies that voted for independence, and New York eventually was the only one that cast a no vote. So it was a unanimous decision of 12-1, and then John Adams wrote a letter to his wife after the vote, and he says, "Today we'll celebrate by succeeding generations," and he day. However, that day doesn't come till July 4th. So then, in order to get the vote, the topic of slavery comes up, because slavery was still important in the South. And then, with Jefferson's words, if all men are created equal, so it did mean, except for slaves at this time, unfortunately, that the South's economy was tied to slavery, and the northern colonies felt that they would not vote for independence if they did not agree to allow slavery to continue. So even the delegates that opposed slavery felt it was unfair for the king, and so passage, they removed that part from the document. So Independence Day does come. Adams was wrong. It wasn't July 1st. It becomes on July 4th. That's when the delegates approved the final version of the Declaration of Independence. And when they signed that document, it's with their lives or fortunes and honor, because what that means is what it says here. It was a very serious pledge, and if the British caught them, they could be tried for treason. And Benjamin Franklin told the delegates, "We must all hang together, or assuredly we will hang separate." What Ben Franklin meant by that statement was that if we don't stick together and be resolute that we're going to see this to the end, surely the British would capture them, and the sentence would have been death, because that's what the sentence was for treason. So here's a picture of inside the Second Continental Congress, and the gentlemen are signing the Declaration of Independence, and then it asks you to fill in the bubbles from a delegate's point of view and a Southern delegate's point of view, and then the last thing it's asking you to do is create a political cartoon of what might have happened to the delegates if the new nation had failed them. So we definitely give me just a short one-sentence explanation for your answer or your drawing. And I'm going to pause now, and I'm going to, you guys make sure you complete and submit them. I'm going to take attendance, and then I have a video we're going to start in a few minutes. If there are any questions about what happened and the seriousness of those gentlemen signing the Declaration of Independence? No questions? If you're busy on your daily assignment, make sure you submit it as soon as you can, and I'll start the video in a few minutes.
It's ordinary soldiers who are making great sacrifices.
They've only got 5 musket balls apiece and almost no powder. Our men will have to make every shot count.
We are better armed and better trained. We will take both of those hills, Sergeant. Whatever it takes. Whatever it costs.
Hold your fire until you see the whites of their eyes!
Foolish Americans. Don't they understand what will happen to them? The rebels are building fortifications. They're going to force my hand. What are your orders, General Howe?
We're going to have to blast them off those hills. I had hoped they'd come to their senses and spare themselves.
You can see all of Boston Harbor from here. The redcoats won't let us stay here without a fight.
The men have worked all night, General Putnam. If the lobsterbacks try and take Breed's Hill, we'll make them pay a heavy price.
If the men are brave and don't panic. I'd have more confidence if we had stores of ammunition. Colonel Prescott, every shot will have to find its mark.
17 June, 1775. Dearest Mother, I am in a place called Bunker Hill, near the city of Boston. I'm glad you cannot hear the terrible sounds. The awful battles of Lexington and Concord are the cause of all this trouble. The colonists seem determined to drive our troops away from Boston. But there's a spark of good news. There's a British officer who might have some knowledge of Father's whereabouts. I'm hoping to find him and learn what I can. Please do not worry about me, Mother. I'm out of harm's way. I am worried about James and Henri. They've gone to interview the rebel militia for Dr. Franklin's Gazette. Still, I can't imagine even they would be reckless enough to get caught up in this. If nothing else, maybe this day will bring us news of Father. I promise to tell.
What have we here?
Welcome to LNN, the Liberty News Network. I'm Ben Franklin. Now to our lead story. It's tense in Boston, where a battle is brewing between British troops and the Massachusetts militia. The militia has amassed a larger-than-expected army at Bunker Hill and is rationing powder and ammunition carefully. Speaking of Massachusetts, the weather there is hot and muggy and calls for summer clothes. Of course, if you're a British soldier, red coats seem to be your choice at any temperature. Ready for your riddle of the week? What has teeth but cannot eat? The answer is a comb. How about that? That's today's report. And remember, a lie stands on one leg, but the truth on two. This has been Franklin, and that's the way it is on June 16th, 1775.
Could we have got ourselves a rebel spy?
Sergeant Wellwright? It is I, Sarah Phillips. I'm a guest at the Essex House.
Yes, of course, Miss Phillips. But this is no place for a British subject. These hills are crawling with rebels.
I am still looking for Lieutenant Hampton.
Ah, yes. The man who served under your father. But it's too dangerous for you to stay here. I'll send Hampton around after we put those rebels in their place.
But
I'll hear no more of this, young lady. I insist. Corporal, escort Miss Phillips home. This will allow you to pass through all checkpoints and rejoin us in battle.
Is there ever a time you're not hungry?
only when I'm eating.
You expect me to take orders from you? Who made you king?
Colonel Prescott. That's who.
I don't serve under Colonel Prescott.
I'm with Captain Parker.
One more like that, I'll resort to fisticuffs!
These men are going to fight the British? Looks to me like they'll be fighting each other.
They're nervous and angry. Look, Henri, here we are at the fence at Bunker Hill. About 500 yards away is the fort at Breed's Hill. Here you can see in where the British are. Now come on, we've got to find Dr. Warren and stay away from any fighting.
Who is this Dr. Warren we're looking for?
An old friend of Dr. Franklin's, one of the leaders of the Massachusetts Sons of Liberty. He'll help us get our story.
How will we recognize him?
Sarah and I met him during Paul Revere's ride. He's a wonderful man. You're going to love him. And with you around, I'll be needing a doctor.
So, Corporal, what's your opinion of the rebels?
I have no opinion, ma'am. It's not my place. I just do my duty. Tell me, why are you looking for Lieutenant Hampton?
My father is in the Ohio wilderness, and we've not heard from him. I'm told the lieutenant may have seen him. Corporal, Won't you please help me find this man who could lead me to my father?
Afraid not, Miss Phillips. Orders and all.
Oh! Corporal, my locket fell off.
Very well. There you are, miss.
Forgive me, Corporal, but I must find my father. Yeah!
Wait! Miss Phillips! Come back!
Dr. Warren!
James, you must leave, son. The British will arrive shortly.
Leave? But the people need to understand what's happening here.
You're right, of course. I admire your courage. Gentlemen, James writes for the Pennsylvania Gazette. He wrote those wonderful stories on Paul Revere's ride and the heroic events at Concord and Lexington.
Very well.
Is this young man a journalist too?
Henri's only interested in finding the best pastry shops.
Well, come along. I'm looking for General Putnam and Colonel Prescott. But Henri must go to Cambridge, away from danger. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Halt! State your business.
I'm on a special mission involving a British soldier.
And exactly what mission would you be performing?
This says permit bearer to pass, and that is the seal of Sergeant Wellwright. Do you recognize it? Good. Then tell me your name, soldier, so Sergeant Wellwright will know whom to have court-martialed.
Very well.
I am seeking a Lieutenant Hampton. Do you know him?
He's leading one of the companies that will take Bunker Hill.
Yeah! Phew. I wish James could have seen that. And thank goodness Mother didn't.
This is mad. That's it. Come on, Stockton. We're through here. You men there, return to your positions. Sorry, General Putnam, but we haven't had sleep or food. You're not paying us enough for this.
We're not paying you anything. The only payment I can offer you is freedom from the tyranny of the British Parliament.
Praise be. If Dr. Warren is joining the fight, then I'm staying.
Good, we need you.
Dr. Warren, you couldn't have come at a better time to assume command.
I wouldn't dream of assuming command from such an experienced soldier as you. I wish only to serve where I can be most useful.
That, sir, would be where the Redcoats are going to attack first. Breed's Hill. There you can assume command from Colonel Prescott.
General Putnam, I wish no command here. I would consider it a privilege to fight under Colonel Prescott.
Need another volunteer to go fight on the hill with Dr. Warren?
Thank you, soldier.
But Dr. Warren, why would you risk your life as an ordinary soldier?
It's ordinary soldiers who are making great sacrifices. I would be honored to stand alongside these men.